Hello and welcome to the Queens of Poker. We are going to be celebrating some big wins from some ladies here and abroad. And we're going to talk to the poker professor, Jeff Heier, about bet sizing and some other math stuff that I don't really understand, but he's
Sure you
going to
do.
help teach us those things. Okay, so how's it going, Jeff?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Excited about this episode. Excited to tell people about these wins that I just saw today. Had to do my regular job yesterday, but I saw that Angela Jordison, who is, I believe, a WPA member, Women's Poker Association, got a big one in Chicago for
That's a big prize.
$161,513.
Yeah, that's awesome.
$161,513, and she took down 861 entries, so she beat 860 people.
$1,100 buy-in, right? That's a
Yeah.
significant event they had out there, and that would be fun to be at, right? Something
Yeah.
that's not quite a World Series, but that's pretty darn close to it.
It's great, and I love seeing women just taking these down with such the lower number that we have. I
Right.
love seeing it. I see she has a Jaka coaching patch, which I have done. I'm currently not doing it because there was just so many, but I found great value in it. And
Good.
if anyone's listening, I think it's definitely worth checking out. I could go back to it, definitely. I saw something that she's now a team pro for Phenom Poker also, which I'm not familiar with, but I'm
Oh,
going to check it out.
I don't know
So
that one, but I love when they do these victory photos, right? And then post them.
yeah,
It's great
yeah,
PR for everybody, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's good for her image, of course, but great for the venue that's hosting and things like that. And obviously some casinos do it too. More of them need to do it though, right? They don't understand, I think, the value that they're missing out on.
Oh my God. What a huge thing you just said. And we haven't really talked about that, but are you listening? Lucky, lucky lady, maybe hustler,
Yep.
casinos who want privacy over social media. Like we want our tournaments to be bigger. We want bigger pots. We want more people to play with. And the best way to do that right now is to post at least the winners like Cavin does at the Gardens. He's great about that.
Again, the tournament directors occasionally get together and yak. They talk. Certainly, they try and deconflict their large series so they don't step on each other. But this really ought to be a point of discussion, right? And I don't know, maybe they should hire you to be their social media director and as a consultant, just come in one time and say, look, this is what's available. This is what it gives you guys. And this is very little work on their part. It's almost no work, right? They already have somebody doing a website, right?
Right.
Everybody does that.
Right.
So
Well,
they already have, whether it's
yeah,
a 20-year-old kid or a 45-year-old woman who's just an expert in the field. They already have somebody doing it, so adding a little bit of work for all the bang they get out of it. I wish they would think about those things a little bit more.
totally. And they like HP doesn't do it either.
No.
I even asked, they're so nice there too, Marcus
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah,
David. I
I like
said,
them very much.
yeah, they're great. I love their tournaments. I said, can I at least do just, can I apply to video me walking in, how I park to be safe, how you buy into a tournament, what you do with your seat card, what you do with your tournament entry, like what is an add-on if they have those? How does the bounty work?
Mhm.
I said, how do I do that? Because I don't want to get in trouble, but I think there are ladies out there. I know there's some of you who want to know how to do that. And Marcus was very nice. He gave me the email of the general manager and told me to apply, which I have not yet because I just got reminded of it. But I'm going to apply. I've applied at Lucky Lady for a media pass just to be able to share winners. I've gotten the runaround there. And Hustler said, let Lucky Lady do it first because they know me there. But Lucky Lady, they feel the people that I've talked to feel that it's breaking the privacy and that they think there are men there who don't want their wives to know that they're playing poker.
Well, there's no doubt there's probably some, but so what you talked to Sean then, not Vince?
No, I talked to Vince, I talked to Russell, and I talked to Jonathan at
At
Lucky
HP.
Lady. And then there's, I think, another Jonathan above the Jonathan. Yeah. I think they're just nervous of losing like their Mizregs, but those are really not the people winning tournaments. And what if we just did like an informal survey? Who wants their picture up there when they finally make final table and don't bubble, or when they finally
Yeah.
cash in, especially when they take down a first, right? I think everybody.
I think it'd be kind of cool. I mean, they could even, I mean, something like the Lucky Lady could even just do a, hey, here's the one who won the big monthly tournament. Just put a photograph up and just rotate that every month. I think that'd be pretty cool. Just think, as you walk into the casino with your buddies, go, hey, that's me, right? I took it down.
Yes, totally.
I'd feel cool
Yeah.
about that, right? So,
Yeah.
and being single, I can't talk about whether I'm stepping out of my wife playing cards or not, but I,
Lucky you.
well,
But
that's Jeff. I
you
don't know about lucky me
yeah.
or not, but
So you would like it. You
absolutely,
would like to be
yeah.
mentioned because I know you cash there a lot. You're a regular there. Everybody knows you there. Everybody, when I leave, I ask you, like, do you know who won? Who got first? How, did they chop? Like, we're invested, and Cavin knows that. Cavin
Yeah.
posts it. I'm invested at Hollywood Park. I'm really invested at Lucky Lady just because I've been playing there so
Mhm.
long, even back when we had the Crystal Room before HCL, right?
Mhm.
We know each other, we like each other, we want to know. And I just think I like your idea, like maybe one of those TVs, instead of those cheesy commercials or whatever, which are better than nothing, maybe
Mhm.
they show their Instagram, which has pictures of the recent winners
Yeah.
rotating,
Yeah.
right? And that way when you're playing there, you're looking for your photo. And
Yeah,
I
it's
just,
like, yeah, it is.
yeah,
It's a little bit like being on the Jumbotron, I guess, at the Dodger Stadium or something. Like, hey,
yeah.
there's us, right?
Exactly. I think that's a good analogy. And I love Lucky Lady. I love playing there. There's two things though. I wish they could and would be willing, three things. Step up their game with social media so that people
Mhm.
who win could be shown and be invested, and so our tournaments could get bigger. Report to Hendon Mob, right? I don't think there's anybody who would object. And they are still playing at the bike, and a lot of them are playing Commerce, the bike. Whoever does report to Hendon Mob, almost everybody I know will go to them over somebody who doesn't, because we want it to show. We want to know.
Yeah, we want the badges. We want the notoriety. Say, look, here's my latest 3 wins on Hendon. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? If you're trying to brag about yourself, I mean, having it in print is helpful.
Right. And it's kind of like a resume
It
in
is
poker.
absolutely. If you're
Right.
trying to make money in this industry, you need that kind of stuff, right? And even if you're not making money, but you just want to show off to your friends, there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that, right? It's
Right.
not like we're hurting somebody or
Right.
meeting somebody else by saying, "Look, somebody acknowledged I did well last week."
Right. And I'm guessing people could opt out of being on Hendon Mob. I don't know. They're going to be on the podcast soon, so I will ask them, but I'm sure
Yeah,
they could. What are they going to do? Tell their wife, don't look at my Hendon Mob. Like their wives don't know,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like I don't, and mine is not impressive, but to me, I like to be reminded every once in a while that there are times when I cash and
yeah.
I just want to know,
And
right?
and for all the guys that are trying to hide from their wife or spouse that they're at the casino, they should probably know that their cell phone is tracking all their locations, and anyone that really
That's a
wants
good
to
point.
find
That's
that
a good,
data out. So
yeah. And there's a bigger issue there. I just think
very
that's
big.
a little bit of an archaic way of looking at poker.
Yeah.
We're trying to shake out of the degenerate gambler and be in a legitimate sport, or like chess, similar to that. So I would love it if they could improve. And the third way is to get a ladies tournament in there, or a ladies live stream, or even a baby lip series.
Something.
I've
Yeah.
been sort of talking to them about, and I don't see what it would hurt, especially if the way to get around the legalities, as Lupe said on the last episode, go watch it, you guys, is we have it be an invite only tournament. We will invite the ladies. They will come to support Lupe and Lips and Women in Poker. And the men can get on in, and they can, if they are invited, they can get in there too. And then
Mhm.
just run another tournament an hour later or at
Yeah.
its regular time. We'll come earlier.
I really like that idea, but from a business perspective, right? How many women do you think the lucky lady needs to make this something they'd be willing to do on a Sunday afternoon?
I have no idea. You probably know that's math. I don't do
Well,
math,
but
but
that's from I'm
yeah.
trying to think of from their perspective, right? They I think the tournament director would like to see more women in the game. Certainly, the general manager wants to make more money, right? That's what they're all about. If they can do both at the same time, they're more likely to say yes, right? So if it were possible, and I don't, I don't know off the top of my head, but say you got to have at least 30 players. If you could go to them at some point with the names of 30 or 40 players, say, look, I got 40 people ready to come 2 weeks from Sunday. Let's do
Easy.
this. We want to do this on
Yeah.
Sunday at 5 p.m. We'll do it in the
Yeah.
back room when it's mostly empty anyways. Let's make this happen. If you
Right.
had that kind of data backing you up, to just list the names, they might be more willing to say yes.
I love it, and I would live stream it personally if
Oh
they
yeah.
wanted me to and let me, and then we'd have women who can't make it in the chat getting more attention on
Yep.
Lucky Lady. Look what Billy and Hannah did with the live stream in the back. Like
Mhm.
it says everywhere now that if you are there, you are probably you are consenting to being
Yes,
recorded,
and that's what happens
right?
when you go to like to a World Series event. That's sort of part of
Right,
there's signs saying you basically you're agreeing to that's okay for your image to be used. So same thing
right.
here. Yeah,
Right. I love Lucky Lady. It's like Cheers without alcohol for me.
me too.
And it's close to me. I would love to see it doing better and have a better turnout of ladies, which has been
Absolutely. Yeah.
happening just through the word of mouth. I notice more ladies there. Do you?
Well, like I said, we talked briefly about this last week on Wednesday or Thursday. There, I played with two women at the table I had not seen before, and so I talked up your podcast, and they both nodded their head. I wrote down on a piece of paper, okay, here's what it is, and I'll look forward to getting the business card so I can hand
Mhm.
out some of those
Yeah,
because I think that's a
I
more
have those
effective way
coming.
to share the word.
Hmm.
Um, but that really, maybe like I said, if you can on a Friday night or something like that, you just go around collect maybe people's contact info.
I do. I've been doing
Oh,
that for
okay,
2
great.
years.
Um,
Before I even started the podcast, everywhere I go, I had 4 or 5 ladies, over the last time I was at Lucky Lady at one of my tables, and it was
mhm.
great, and
Yeah,
I made final table during the day last week, and there was 2 ladies that made it out of
I saw that. That's right.
a
Yeah.
very tiny daily tournament, and I posted that on my social media without anybody's face but my own, but it would be it would be nice to be able to do that, and the women's tournament, easily 40 women, probably more. I want yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
get that, but like I said, if I'm the tournament director, if I'm the business guy at that Lucky Lady or one of the other casinos, if you showed me a list of names, that might be more meaningful to me than just hearing you utter the words. I got 30
Okay.
people, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
that's a good
oh, there you
idea.
go, right?
Yeah.
Here they are.
Well, yeah. Russell knew who Lupe was. He knew it's Ladies International Poker
Sure.
Tour. And what they do is they'll do 2 or 3 days of events, or in Vegas at the WPT, 5 days. I'm
Yeah,
going more for that than
yeah,
WPT. I like WPT, but I had way more fun at Resorts World playing the lips, and that got me to play cash at Resorts
sure.
World. I
Yeah,
spent way more money at Resorts World, and I'll probably stay there next time versus the Encore Win, which I like, but Resorts
yeah,
World is brand new,
it is.
right?
It's a very nice property, and that would be something. I noticed the Commerce has a series that just kicked off, and I noticed they have a senior event, but no
Yes,
ladies event.
I noticed that
Um,
too. And I'm going to say this, the last thing about lips at the Lucky Lady is there will be ladies to support, and Lupe and the lips do everything. The lips tournament brings trophies, it brings swag for the final table, it literally does everything for them, right? All
mhm.
they have to do is collect the money, basically. And she said on the last podcast, I think she gets $10. That's
I was really
nothing,
surprised by that, right? So
right?
they're working almost for free there.
Right.
Um,
She's amazing. She's
but
just really trying to get ladies in poker and covering hopefully her time in that. But yeah, if Lucky Lady, I hope you think about that. Now on to commerce.
yep.
Thank you, commerce. Cairo has really gotten more ladies out to the commerce simply by upping their social media game. So shout out to Cairo. I know you're not on Instagram yet, but if you were, you would see what he's been doing. And he's promoting their live stream. Way more people. I didn't know about their live stream until he started promoting it. I wasn't playing at their cash games. I didn't know about their 100 points for tournament players. If you play 100 hours at cash this month, you
Mhm.
get a tournament entry, I think, to the WSOP Circuit Series in
Oh,
November,
okay.
right? And they don't have a ladies event yet, but I think it's probably because of the legalities, but commerce, I'm telling you, talk to Lupe Soto at the Lips Tour. She knows what to do with this, and she has a way around it, which is making it an invite only. You have plenty of room. I was just there all weekend.
Mhm.
You have plenty of room to run a concurrent bounty for men or whatever. Everybody, and women who don't like women's events, they could play. And then the women who bust out of the women's event and don't get the stuff, the trophy and the swag, they can jump into the other tournament. So it's a win-win. I don't see how anybody loses, and more ladies now have commerce on the map and a good experience there. Right? I know it's not your favorite place, but I think
But hey,
you'll
just
be
because I
back.
don't like it doesn't mean that everyone else shouldn't
Right.
like it and go.
Right.
Right? So that's
But
fine.
again, you didn't like it because the table was rickety.
Table, yeah, it's sort of a, maybe a little, that says more about me, maybe them, or something like that.
Little
I'm
bit,
not quite
little bit.
sure, but I'm sure if
He'll
I,
be back, Commerce.
yeah, I'm sure if I ran deep and cashed, I would love the place, right? But I
You
didn't.
would, yeah. I haven't ran deep. You know, I got such a
Yeah,
bad feet
yeah.
as usual, but I'm still a fan and able to get now content for the podcast and highlight ladies, which by the way, I want to mention Beth Hall. Beth Hall got fourth, and I will be doing a social media and mentioning that next week on our next episode about all the fabulous ladies, Elaine, and I'll have to go through, but there were 4 ladies that made it down to the last 27, and
That's
then
great.
2 ladies made the final table. I don't know one of the ladies' names, so the last 2 in, so I'm waiting to get her name because I had to leave at the end. But
Mhm.
congratulations, Beth, 4th place. Amazing. I know she's gotten first and she's crushed it with some big bounties, and she's a really, really tough competitor. So congratulations. 2 more quick shout outs. We've got, can you see Michelle Bornstein here?
Yes, yes.
We've got the WPA fundraiser. They're having them this month and next month leading up to the WPT in Vegas and hopefully the Lips tournament. Michelle won the $25 donation free tournament online for a buy-in to the ladies championship of the WPT, which is $1,100. It's not cheap. It's definitely worth looking into.
Mhm.
So congratulations, Michelle. That is a perfect segue. Not really, but we're going to go to playable hands and bet sizing because some of us really need to learn this stuff. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, so yeah, I thought those are really 2 really important topics, right? And we don't want to take a lot of people's time, but just maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, talk about, especially for beginning players, right? What are some good hands to play? What hands should you avoid? And what are the factors that decide what hands to play? So there's a number of things that you want to consider. One is what's going on at the table. What type of player are you? What type of players are you at the table? Are they aggressive? Are they passive? And we'll go into more detail on that in the subsequent slide. Where are you in a table position? Obviously later position's better because everyone's already acted in front of you. How big is your stack? How close you are to the bubble in case you want to make some money. And if you're already in the money and you're trying to do final table lettering and things like that, those are the things that should go into consideration before you decide to play any hand. And one thing that I always stomp on, right? This is Jeff's way of poker. And one thing I've determined over the years and the many tournaments I've played, there's no such thing as the one right way to play. I don't care what the GTO enthusiasts say. That is not the one right, always play it this way. It just doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So there is no one right way.
Combining. You have to
But
combine it.
there are some simple mistakes that I prefer if beginners would avoid, and that's what we'll talk about going forward then. So here, there are different types of players, right? We have passive, we have tight, we have loose, we have aggressive, and you can see, a little bit of description of what that is, and then, the people said, okay, now we can also combine these. So there are tight aggressive players who are called tags, and they basically do bets and raises to calls. They're very aggressive. This can be a winning strategy depending on who else is at the table. And then on the other side, you have loose aggressive and things like that. And I don't want to go into all the details, but you also have a hybrid called the tight passive or the rock. One thing with them, they don't play very many hands, but if they raise, get the hell out of Dodge because they're telling you basically they're showing their kings or aces face up. Just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Throw your tens away. Throw your ace jack suited away because you're probably going to be in trouble and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And then you have loose players. They're also called calling stations. Those are the
Yeah.
players you want to get in hands with because they're going to call you raises. But if they re-raise, okay, look out because maybe they just ran into a monster. But those are I find those are the players that I can win a lot of money from at the table. But you have to understand who those players are. And so that's one of the things I do when I sit down. If I go to Lucky Lady and I know half the table, I already know how they play, right? Because I've played many
All
hundreds
of
of
them.
hands with them. But if I go someplace new, if it's the World Series, or if I go to the bike and I haven't played with there very often, I have to learn. How are these players? What kind of players are they? And so that's basically means pay attention. in the watch over 30 or 60 hands, who's in the hands a lot, who's always raising, who's always folding, their limp bet to a fold and things like that. And I develop mental models, and that's how I use that information later on when I decide what kind of hands to play. So this is just a sheet that probably most people have seen before if they've seen any website or any book associated with poker. Let's just list every single starting hand that you can have in Texas Hold'em, right, with 2 cards. So you just have basically, say at the top, you have aces and aces, and along the diagonal, those are all your pocket pairs, all the way from aces down to 2s. And on the top hand, the top half of the matrix here these are your suited cards. You have ace king suited, you have jack 7 suited, et cetera, et cetera. On the bottom, these are your unsuited cards, right? So you have ace 8 offsuit, you have 10-4 offsuit.
More of the actual math stuff.
Okay. Here's a reasonable approach to playable hands. And one of the things I would like to see starting players do is starting players are frequently uncertain what to do, right? I mean, experts are uncertain what to do at times, but the new players should avoid having to make decisions under uncertainty too many times.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways you do that is by, let's throw away your mediocre hands, especially in early position, right? So early position would be like the small blind, the big blind, and under the gun. So if you're going to be opening, that your range should be really small, right? So you should only be playing really, really good hands. So in this case, the examples, they obviously aces you want to play down to jacks, maybe ace queen, ace jack suited. Those hands might be okay to play, but you want to avoid playing things like 4-5 suited or ace 7 offsuit. Those are not very good hands to play early position. So just throw those away, right?
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're saying don't open or don't call and
don't
defend.
Open. Don't play with them, right?
But what about big blind and small blind? You did mention.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about early position right now.
Oh, early. Okay, I thought you said big blind, small blind. You did.
Well,
but, okay.
Yeah. So those, yeah. Fair enough.
Because it's the exact opposite. I just want to point out to people of what GTO says. So I was trained what you're saying 20 years ago, and GTO now is saying because of these AI models that we defend. So for you longer term players, I hired a coach in GTO because I want to know why they're playing these hands.
Absolutely. Yes.
So look at a GTO chart, and then you have to kind of assimilate all of that into what you want to do. But I agree. And a lot of them are being told to 2 and 3 to raise and 3-bet and those other hands, right? 4, 5, 7, 8, jack 5. But I see what you're saying. Go ahead. It's more traditional poker training.
So again, this is Jeff's way of playing poker.
Yes.
So
yes. Go ahead.
I definitely want to learn more about GTO because I want to use them against those players, right?
Exactly.
But the key part that the takeaway here is in early position, right? You should only be playing maybe 10 to 15% of the hands. So most of the time, I'm not playing an early position hand unless I got something really good. Now that means I fold. Well, okay. Well, early position's in a bad spot, so you should be folding most of your hand. You shouldn't be playing king 9 offsuit in early position. Don't do that, right? But as it goes further on in the position, when you're in middle position, you can open up a little bit more. You can play 15 to 25% of the hands, and late position even more, right? And so these are just rough numbers. That might vary depending on where you are in the tournaments, how big your stack is and stuff like that. But again, the takeaway here is that the earlier you are in the position, the tighter you should be on the range of hands that you play with.
Yes. And generally for beginning players.
And again, that's what we want to talk about. Yeah. So this is still, I think we're still at Poker 101, right? I think I referred to that the first couple of times, and when I've been on here, one of these times we'll get to Poker 201 and Poker 301, and that's very, very important because a lot of I think a lot of strategy can be developed, and that makes your game that much better and should make you cash more often. Here's some bet sizing. So bet sizing fundamentals. So we have a starting hand where the position you are, so we want to commit some chips to the pot. So the question is, well, how much should I bet? Should I just call or make the minimum bet, or should I raise? And if I raise, how much? So the answer is, well, it depends. What's your stack size of yours? What's the opponent's? What position are you? Are you acting after someone that's already called, or are you acting before them? Again, what kind of opponents are you playing against? What kind of player are they? What kind of table image have I put together? If I presented myself as an aggressive player or type player, and then the table dynamics, right? Those are all the things that go into how much to bet, right? And again, what I try and do, so one of the basic questions I ask before I put any chips in the pot, or if I want to raise, is what question, I have to ask this question: what response do I want from the players at my table? If I'm going to raise, do I want to raise enough to make them fold? So say it's a limp pot and I'm the fourth one in, and I look down and I got ace jack, and I want to raise, but I don't want any callers, right? So I'm going to make a bet size that's going to make everybody else fold, right? Because if two people call my ace jack, I'm probably in trouble. And there's a subsequent slide here that goes into the math showing, you know, depending on the number of opponents you have, your win percentage goes down sometimes dramatically. So I want to get rid of as many people as possible. So if I have something like ace jack, I just want everybody to go away. So if it's a limp pot, I'm going to bomb the pot, and you know, if there's 6 big blinds in there, I'm probably going to make a 7 big blind bet raise, because I don't want anybody to call.
Is there a mathematical formula? Or are you just matching the pot +1, or what?
Yeah, that's good enough. Match the pot +1. I think that's a good thing. You don't need to do a lot of math. You do have to keep an eye on what's in the pot, right? So as people play, you ought to keep in your head, oh, there's three limpers in there. Okay, well, you start with 2.5 big blinds, add 3. Most people can do that math. So I'm going to make a raise of 6 big blinds, right?
Okay.
And I'll go back to that a little bit later.
Regardless of position.
Said depending what I want. So if I ask the question, you know, what do I want the other opponents to do? If I have a hand like ace jack, I don't want any callers. But if I have aces or kings, all right, that's going to modify my raise, because now I actually want 1 caller, maybe 2 at most. And so instead of being a pot size, you know, 6 or 7 big blind bet, maybe I'll make a 4 big blind bet or something like a raise, something like that.
Okay.
But ask those questions before you put any chips in the pot. I see people constantly, they'll put a raise in, and then they get a re-raise, and then they go in the tank. I'm like, you should have done that earlier, right? I mean, why put any chips at risk until you've already answered that question for you? And so this goes back to, you know, if you're going to limp with 10 king offsuit in early position, and somebody, you know, raises you, well, 10 king offsuit, especially if you got to act first, that's a horrible hand. So you're probably going to make it.
Yeah.
You just wasted a big blind, right? And if you do that over and over again, that's a pretty big.
Or if you're really bad, you're going to chase it and
that's even
call down the ace king or the kings.
Yeah.
And
So one of the first rules of life I learned, unfortunately, it took me a long time. You've heard the story of, you know, what do you do when you find yourself digging a hole, right? So probably, I'm sure, Julie, you've heard that story before. And so later in life, I found out there's only one thing to do when you find yourself digging a hole. You're digging yourself in a problem. Put the shovel down. Stop making it worse, right? So hold that 10 king offsuit, and hopefully you'll learn from it. So again, go back to the question. So what response do I want? So again, raise enough to get everybody out, or narrow the field so there's only 1 or 2 callers. That's it, right? I see too many people, they make a small 3 bet or a small raise that everybody's going to call. I'm like, all you've done now is the pot, right? Now you just put more of your chips at risk. So don't do that. So here's again, you know, go back to a bet size and concept. So I see this misunderstood a lot, even by very, very experienced players.
Yeah.
They you know, they say there's 2 limps in the pot, and they get looked down, and they got aces, and they say, "Well, I'm going to make a raise." And I read somewhere that if you have a big hand, you should raise make a 3 big blind raise. Well, that's not even half the value of the pot now. And so really, what they need to focus on is not a numerical big blind raise, but it's a function of how many chips are already in the pot. So how many big blinds are already in the pot? So in this example, it said, if there's 2 limpers in front of you, that means there's already 4.5 big blinds in the pot, because there are 2 big blinds, now obviously from the big blind, and there's the small blind and 2 limpers. That's 4.5. Right. So your raise now should be a function of that size, not the size, not 1 big blind, right? So you should now do the raise based on the pot being 4.5.
So you're looking at percentage of pot?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, if I have, as we talked about, you know, just the previous slide, if I got a hand I want everybody out of the way, then I'm just going to bomb the pot, and I'll make a pot size bet +1. If I have a really a monster hand, like I got aces or kings, and I don't want everybody to fold, but I only want maybe 1 person, then if there's 4.5 big blinds in a pot, maybe I'll make the raise, you know, 4 blinds or something like that. Hopefully that I just keep 1 or 2 around. But making a 2.5 big blind raise at this point, like I said, when there's already 4.5 big blinds in the pot, that's an irrelevant thing.
But you're crossing lines. So what percentage of the pot are you making it with aces?
If there's 2 big blinds in front of me, I'm going to make so there's already 4.5 big blinds in the pot. I'm going to make I'll make probably a 5 big blind raise.
Right, but you're saying don't count big blinds, count percentage of pot, and then you're counting.
I'm going to make a pot size.
So that's confusing. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So make a pot size with aces here if there's the 2 limpers. So if there are 4 limpers, now you're going to make, so now there's 6.5 big blinds. Make your bet 6.5 big blinds. But based on the size of the pot. Not
It
not the big
seems
blind.
simpler if you see 10,000 in the pot, make it
10,000 bet.
9,000
I
or
like that.
10,000 bet. Yeah. To
Yeah.
me, that's how I do it because I don't have a mathematical brain. That's way, I'm not going to use big blinds, then break it down back to big
I
blinds.
like your,
Then,
yeah, I like your way
yeah.
to flip.
Cause,
So just bet the number of big chips that are in the pot.
yeah,
If there are
I,
5 orange chips in the
yeah,
pot, make a 5 orange chip raise. I like that.
right.
That's
And
a much better way to describe that.
most poker training these days, and if you play online, you have the option, I'm betting half pot, I'm betting 1/3 of pot, I'm betting 2/3, or you could do big blinds. But I think a lot of people are thinking that way these days from online things, just so
I,
you know.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I like yours, right? And so in a redux, I would make that change, right? So let's, but
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
think,
It's the same, but it was confusing to somebody who's not mathematical to go back to big blinds when you just said don't think
yeah,
about it in big blinds. So that's all I meant. It's
yeah,
great info though.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. Okay.
Thanks. Me too.
So let's go to, so again, trying to get people out of the pot. The more players that you're playing against, the harder your decisions are, right? So you might have aces here, but with 4 opponents, I'll show a slide here in a little bit to show basically how your win percentage goes down dramatically.
Hmm.
So again, before you put any chips in the pot, ask yourself, what are you gonna do if somebody raises? Are you gonna fold? Like I said, with the 10 king offsuit example I used earlier, are you gonna call? Maybe, right? Maybe you got ace jack and you figure, well, I can call a small raise. But now there's even more chips in the pot. Ace jack is not a great hand, right? Especially if I'm playing against a raiser and a call like ace jack.
Yeah.
There's probably better hands out
Yeah.
there. So I'm not, one of my problems with a hand like ace jack in a raised pot with like 3 opponents. I'm not sure I want to hit my ace because maybe there's an ace queen or ace king out there. I'm not sure I want to hit my jack because maybe there's pocket kings out there. So what am I hoping for? I'm sort of praying for either 2 pair or something like trip jacks or something, and those just don't happen very often. So, anyways,
Yeah.
let's go on. So here's, now we got a big hand, right? So this is just some math again to go back to this. Here's like the largest hands we have, right? So we go from aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, ace king suited, ace king off, ace queen suited, and ace queen offsuit. And then I just said, okay, and actually asked ChatGPT, right? But obviously I could have done the solver myself, but why not use a bot when I can? And I said, hey, what are the percentages when I'm heads up versus all the way up to 5 opponents? So you see, when you have aces, and when I told ChatGPT, I said, I'm assuming that the opponents I'm playing aren't complete monkeys, that they're only going to call me with at least a medium strength hand, which is like pocket eights or better. So there's not going to be a lot of, there won't be any 6-3 offsuits calling my rates with pocket aces under the gun or something like that. So if I'm with one opponent, right, with aces, I'm going to win 85% of the time. That's pretty good, right? But for those sad sacks out there, they go, oh, I lost. Well, one time out of 7, yeah, you're going to lose with aces, right? So
And
now,
kings
but now if you allow 2 opponents in
or more.
or more, like I said, now we're down to 73%. If you limp and now half the table's in there with 5 opponents, now you're only going to win half the time. Well,
That's a good chart. I like that.
That's a lot, right? You're taking a hand that you very rarely get, and you're willing to risk, down to only half the time you're going to win.
Taking a
And
picture
those
of
half
that one.
times, you're probably going to put a lot of chips in the pot. I don't.
That one.
I want to isolate. Like I said, again, this is why you raise and you don't limp with these things. And so you see the same kind of numbers there. Obviously, as you go down in strength, the numbers for the opponents are different. So when you got kings against one opponent, heads up, you win about 3/4 of the time. That's still pretty good. That's still the second best hand in poker. But kings lose, right? Again, kings against any ace rag is going to lose basically 30% of the time.
Bastards.
But that's part of the game. That's the beauty of the game. So again, this just shows you, and people can go through this at their own thing. But if you get down to tens, heads up with tens, it's a pretty good hand. You win a little bit more than half the time. That means half the time you lose, right? But if you allow multiple players in there, you're going to lose almost all the time. so don't you want to isolate this as much as possible. So here we are. Now, so something else that happens a lot, right? So people have kings and they go, geez, I always lose because there's always an ace in the flop. So I said, okay, what's the probability if you have these big pocket pairs of an overpair appearing on the flop? So with kings, 1 time out of 5, you see an ace. So that means 4 times out of 5, you think it's a clean board, right? So you're all happy when the flop comes 10-7 deuce because there's no ace. The challenge is, you're going to make a C bet and somebody raises you. Now you go, well, crap. Maybe they got pocket sevens and hit the set of sevens. So you're all excited the ace doesn't show up, but maybe you're focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So again, this goes back to you got to understand, who you're playing, how aggressive have they been in the past, You know, how much risk you're willing to take, where you are in the tournaments. All these things have to go into your decision making on whether you're going to call a re-raise post flop with something like that. So kings, like I said, one out of five you're going to see an ace. The queens, 2 times out of 5 you see an ace or a king on the flop, and obviously it goes down from there as the hands go down. So if you get down to 10s, 2/3 of the time you're going to see some sort of painter or ace on the board. Now, just because if I have kings, just because an ace comes up, doesn't mean I've lost, right? So some people, too many people, right? They call these kings ace magnets, and they hate pocket kings.
Yep.
Like, you kidding? It's the second best hand of poker. I don't hate
Yeah.
the second best hand of poker. So, and again, these are even experienced players will say this to me. I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
So, and what they do, right? And again, human memory is fallible.
Yeah.
Right? And
Right.
mine certainly is, right?
Yeah.
All they focus on is, hey, last year,
Yeah.
they don't remember how many times they had pocket kings, but they sure as hell remember the 3
Losing.
times they lost from an ace king.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't
they
hate
don't-
the kings. I hate the idiot calling with ace rag, looking for his flush. And then he
Well,
hits 2 pair instead.
well, even
But,
any ace
yeah.
though is probably going to beat your king. So, but
Yep.
again,
Yep. Yep.
people remember the 3 times last year when the kings got cracked, and so that's why they hate aces. That's why they call it ace magnets. I've talked to really experienced players.
Right.
Both
Well,
like
according to your chart, it's more than 3 times in a year, but yeah,
oh, of
I
course
get
it
it.
will be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you play 100,000 hands last year, yeah, it's going to lose. This is going to happen half dozen times at least.
Right.
So, but what the math tells you, so 1 time out of 5 an ace will come on a flop. But just because the ace came on a flop doesn't mean your opponent has one of the other ones. There's only 4
Right.
aces in the deck.
Right.
So 1 time out of 5 an ace comes out of flop. Guess what? The math says even if that comes on a flop, most of the time your opponent doesn't have the ace. Only 1 time out of 6 do they have the ace.
Yep.
And so that means you shouldn't, just because somebody 3-bets you doesn't mean you should throw your kings away and say, crap, I
For
lost.
sure. Or maybe just even stop and don't see bet. That's where you have to consider the table and who you're playing with again.
Yes.
How likely are they to have 4 or 5, and they're bluffing, pretending they have the ace, right? Yeah.
There's no bitterness in your voice. There is.
Those bastards. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
No, there people.
That's
do
the fun part of poker too. Yeah.
It's fun and it's annoying as hell. I mean, it just
Yeah, yeah, I get mad, but I'm working on it. It's also a puzzle, and we have to, like you said, be thinking a few steps ahead and be willing to let go when it's time. But no, it's hard to know when you should be letting go and not. Yeah,
it is, and like I said, that's what when I create the mental model in my head of each individual player, that helps, right? So just Saturday at the Lucky Lady, some guy played a 5 deuce offsuit, and he showed it, and I had to make a comment on it. It's like, I forget, but basically I was deriding him. It's like 5
yeah,
deuce,
of course, right.
But now I use that against him later on because
me too.
Geez, he really might be full crap here, right?
I make a note in my actual phone usually, and I'm so good at remembering how people play like that. Yeah.
Well, that's good. So I do it. My memory only lasts for the table, right? So I don't put it in my phone. So once it goes away, unless I played with the people multiple times, like in my home game, I have all their actions memorized because I play with them so many times, and certainly the regulars.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah,
I know how they play, right? If I know there's some players I know when they raise pre-flop and then they check the flop, I know they have ace king, and so I just bet and they fold. Right? This is easy. Thank you for your tips, right?
Yeah, the really, really good ones though are doing that, and they're not going to show. Right? They're not going to show. They're not going to give away that information.
If you're smart, you never show your cards. Well, it shouldn't say never. Sometimes it's helpful to show your cards, but not on a regular basis. Right?
I agree. Yeah.
And so that's certainly one of the things I tell new players. Just because the table is encouraging, when people say, "Oh, it's good for the game,"
no, it's an angle. Yeah, I agree.
Here's your game, buddy. And then that's all the cards in the so anyways, yeah. Anyways, pocket kings are not ace magnets, right? And here's the math that shows you. Pocket kings is a really, really good hand. Play it like a good hand. So I don't know where we are on time. We can skip.
We have what else do you have? I'd like to hear a quick one on the counterfeited, unless you have something else. We could push that to next week.
We can do that for next week. We can stop it now. We also have the tournament spreadsheet. We can just go over that quickly. It's up to you.
You pick. It's your episode.
Okay. Let's talk about counterfeited pairs, then, right? Because you did ask that question before. So what does it mean? Because you hear the phrase, it's kind of an odd phrase, right? You got counterfeited. What does that really mean, right? So anyways, the definition is that basically a card comes on the board that makes one or more of your whole cards redundant or no longer useful.
Okay.
Doesn't
And
change the basic value of your hand, and I'll show some examples.
what are the simple rules, if there are any, for people to remember?
So again, here I'll just show some examples and maybe it'll become clear in that. So here's, you have 7-8, and here's the flop, 7-8 and a king. So you got great. I got 2 pair, right?
Yeah.
I'm liking this hand, although I think I've mentioned this to you before. I find 2 pair to be one of the most challenging hands to play post flop because I'm not quite sure where I'm at. I'm really excited about this, right? And if I'm in the hand against someone who raises, I think I can probably trap them, but you're never quite sure. And so in this case, so some action happens and the turn comes a deuce, right? So okay, I think I'm probably still ahead, right? So we're betting and stuff like that. And here's a river, another deuce. So now I'm like, okay, what might happen here now? I have 2 pair, right? But I might lose to a better 2 big pair because any king now, a king 10, I lose to because I have a pair of kings and a pair of 2s, and that counterfeited my 2 pair. So that's an example of a hand being counterfeited. You might also get counterfeited if they had something like pocket queens, right? So now you have 2 7s and 2 8s, but you lose against 2 queens and 2 2s. So you were ahead. Go ahead.
What about if, let's say, the person just has a 7, like maybe an ace 7, and the other person has ace queen?
Right. And so if they have an ace 7, right, you're gonna, and you have 7s and 8s, you're gonna beat an ace 7.
No, I have ace 7, the other person has ace queen. So
Right.
now that would make my pairs 7 and 2s.
Yes. And so, okay, now I see your example, right? So you both play an ace and you both play a 7, right? And there's 2 2s and there's a king, and so you'll chop because you both have 2 aces. You have an ace, a king. I'm sorry, you have a pair of 7s, you have a pair of 2s, so that's your principal hand, and then you both have an ace, right? So you'll be chopping that hand. So in this case, the ace queen, your queen became counterfeited because the pair showed up on the river. So those are things to keep an eye on, and it is confusing, right? And it's worth discussion.
Yeah, there's got to be an easier way to say this. So keep working on that, Professor.
I'll keep working on that. Let me go on to the next example here. And I don't know if it'll be any clearer or not, but here's an example. You have pocket 10s, right? Here's the flop. So you have 2 pair, 10s and kings with a queen on the board. Here's the turn's a 3. And sorry, my picture's, I'm sorry, there's another queen on the river. So now there's 2 pair on the board, both bigger than my 10s. So my 10s now are basically going to lose most of the time because I'm going to lose to, right now I have 2 kings, 2 queens with a 10 kicker. So I'm going to lose to any jack hand, even jack 4 I lose to. I'm going to lose to any kicker higher than a 10.
Really? What about an ace?
You lose to any ace. You're going to lose to any jack. Right?
This is the one that I didn't really understand.
So this is an important one. So you have a pair, but there's 2 pairs larger than your cards on the board. So your pair is worthless. You now have a 10 kicker, right?
So we're not just playing the board. The highest card then
we're playing the highest board. So for example, if that turn instead of a 3 was an ace, everybody's got 2 kings and 2 queens with an ace kicker. So unless they have paint or an ace, you're going to be chopping this hand. But your 10s are worthless here. So if somebody bets, you throw your 10s away and you say, darn, right?
So it's 2 queens, 2 kings with a 3 kicker?
That's what's on the board. Now you have a 10, so your 10 beats the 3. So your hand here is 2 kings, 2 queens with a 10 kicker.
Anything over a 10.
Anything, you lose to anything over a 10, or you lose to any queen or king or anything, right? So you lose to crap loads of stuff. If somebody bets into this pot, your 10s are worthless.
Okay.
There's no reason ever to call it pocket 10s in this hand if somebody bets. Right?
Okay.
Right? If you want to try and flip them, that's fine. But don't call. Right?
And often though, people are going to bet here just because they think you'll give it up, or
well, that's sure, right? But again, they might do this with 9-7.
A pair of
That's
4s.
the only hand you're going to beat is a 9-7.
But even if they have a pair of 4s, you're good against a pair of 4s.
You'll win against a pair of 4, but you lose against jack 4.
Yeah. You lose against it's hard to know.
It's ace 2.
So it would be nice if there was a mathematical way to figure this out.
I will work on that. I will work on that.
Good. Yeah, because that's where I get stuck.
And I see multiple people, and sometimes I get, oh crap, I didn't see the board was paired, or double pair board. Yeah. To find out, but pair the board. So again, to me, and so I'll work on that for the next one. To me, though, the bigger challenge is here, right?
It's helpful. Yeah.
So maybe the turn was instead of the second deuce, maybe the river was a 4 in this hand, but he had king 4. How am I going to know he had king 4? Yeah, I can see he'd have a king because he called
I
my
mean, we
bet on
kind of
the.
deserve to be beat by kings up when we're playing 7-8. It is suited at least. I like 7-8, but
Oh, it is right. There are
there's an
many reasons.
overcard, so I know that I
Yeah.
could be beat by king rag easily.
And that's why I find two pair to be really really hard to play. So I seldom slow play two pair.
Yeah, me
And if
too.
it's bottom two pair, I'll never slow play it. I'll lead out against unless
Yeah,
it's an extraordinarily aggressive player that raised.
yeah.
Um,
Protect your hand,
I'll lead out with a hand like bottom two pair. Just like I said, hey,
of
I'm okay if
course.
they fold. If it's an
Right,
extraordinarily aggressive player and I'm really certain they're going to make a C bet, then I'm going to check raise. I'm not going to check call.
right. Not going to play games with that for sure. No slow playing. You can jump in the tournament calculator. Did you just want to go over
Um, sure.
the weekly tournaments? Because
Yeah,
we could pop on and do that at another time, or like how long do you think
this
it's
this will just take a couple minutes.
okay?
So this just looks at these are all the tournaments around LA. This week, so it runs from the second. So I did it Monday through Sunday, and just broken up by the casino. So Lucky Lady, they don't have anything special going on this week. So this is just the normal ones. And there's just a formula that I put together. Just say, I think I've covered this before. This is just an evaluation. How many points is the tournament worth? And so you see at the Lucky Lady, they got their standard ones. So that's anywhere between 27 and 31 points. So not bad, but there are other better tournaments in town. So for example, the Gardens, their Wednesday 10K bounty, you get 36 points for. But their Friday and Saturday, those are the best tournaments in town on a regular basis. So you get 43 points for that. Hollywood Park, they had a special Labor Day tournament at 50K. That's over now, so we don't have to worry about that.
That was a great one.
That was a good one. So the bikes,
Yeah.
they had their day two on Monday. Obviously, we passed that already, but that was with a crap load of points just because of the starting stack you had. Even though it was a big buy-in, 3,600, you got 80 plus big blinds, and you had a long time to play poker, right?
So is this for last week?
This
Sorry.
start, like I said, the
Okay,
species
maybe
on
you can update it for the next one that we
the,
do,
this,
like ahead, if you have
yeah.
that info.
So right now I'm just doing it Monday through Sunday. Since this podcast is on Wednesday, we're already 2 days into it. So we'll see how that goes. But this is good through Sunday, so you can see they have a Survivor tournament. I'm sorry, that was already. So let's go down to the Commerce is running some of their special tournaments now. So you see they have like 46 points. Their mystery bounty, for example, on the 5th is a pretty good one. They also
Yeah, that Commerce series looks great, you guys. I'm going to be posting about it on the Instagram.
the multi. So that's a pretty good tournament when you get 46 points. They have a 30K guarantee on Sunday. That's worth 66 points. So that's the best one they have going this week.
Wow, that's Commerce?
Yeah.
Which one is that? What's
that's
the
Commerce. That's a 30. It's a $400 buy-in, 30K guarantee. And again, you start with 40,000 starting stack. But again, you get more points because the blinds go up not particularly aggressively. So instead of doubling that you see in a lot of tournaments, you have more time to play with your stack. And the way this formula works, the more time you have, the more points you get. The more worthwhile it is from a player perspective.
Love it. Great one, Commerce. And was that 30-minute levels? Do you remember?
Let's see. Yeah, that was 30-minute levels. Yes.
Awesome. Great job, Commerce.
Yeah.
Everybody, that looks like the one.
Yeah. So of all the ones that in town this week, that'd be the one I'd recommend.
Yeah. And it was great this weekend. Everything went very smoothly and no issues at all. And I'm looking forward to the WSOP there. Thank you for that. That was super helpful. And thank you for doing the math.
You bet.
For the episode. I'm sure a lot of people are going to love it. And I know you're working on another one, so you can let me know.
Will do. Will do.
All right. Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
For having me. See you later.
Bye, you guys.